and today's rally is part of an international struggle to secure the freedom of Julian Assange, to defend WikiLeaks. This is one of the greatest struggles of our time on the issue of free speech, against censorship and for the freedom of journalists. Our group, the Socialist Equality Group, is affiliated to the International Committee of the Fourth International, the World Trotskyist Movement, and our comrades, the Socialist Equality Party in Australia, held a powerful rally in Sydney on Sunday, with a number of speakers, including a well-known journalist, John Pilger, who demand that the Australian government end its collaboration with the United States and intervene immediately to use all of its diplomatic power and pressure to secure Assange's unconditional freedom and defend his rights as an Australian citizen. We repeat that demand today. This is one of many vigils being held around the world. Possibly this is the first one in the world because of the time zones. There are also going to be vigils in London and across Australia and the United States. As you said, Alex, Assange has been unable to leave the Ecuadorian embassy for 6 years. This is the 6th anniversary.
6 years.
He can't leave without being arrested by British police. Assange has committed no crime. He was forced to seek asylum from Ecuador because WikiLeaks revealed the truth to billions of people about the slaughter of civilians in Afghanistan and Iraq, and about the anti-democratic machinations of the United States and other governments throughout the world.
Very true.
The conditions that he's held in, as Alex said, amount to arbitrary detention, and the United Nations has described it as torture. Still, successive governments in Canberra have refused to defend him. Now Ecuador's new government of Lenin Moreno is looking for some way to back out of its agreement to give us asylum to Julian Assange in order to curry favour with Washington. They have already cut off his internet access and demanded that he stop making political statements. If he falls into American hands, he would be thrown in jail and subjected to the same brutal treatment and show trial as Chelsea Manning, who spent almost 7 years in prison for leaking the Iraq War documents, including the horrific collateral murder video showing the murder of innocent people in Iraq. Assange and WikiLeaks have performed an immense service to the world's working class, and as John Pilger said on Sunday, and I quote, "No investigative journalism in my lifetime can equal the importance of what WikiLeaks has done in calling rapacious power to account, in its revelations of fraudulent wars and bald-faced lies of governments. WikiLeaks has allowed us to glimpse how the imperial game is played in the 21st century. That is why Assange is in mortal danger." He went on to denounce the previous Labour government in Australia of Julia Gillard, which had declared WikiLeaks a criminal organisation and supported the United States operation against it. The attack on Assange, Manning and Edward Snowden is part of a broader assault on the working class. The ruling elites are seeking to re-establish their control over the political discourse by trying to destroy the hard-won democratic rights of working people, by imposing censorship and control over the internet, and silencing and suppressing oppositional voices such as WikiLeaks.
True.
This is happening because governments and corporations are terrified of the re-emergence of class struggle internationally, and the growth of strikes and of anti-war sentiment and sympathy for socialism, especially among young people. In America, Europe, and throughout the world, there have been major strikes just in the past few months. There are attempts to organise workers using social media to protest against austerity policies. Here in New Zealand, nurses are in the middle of a struggle to improve their wages, which have been frozen for a decade, and staff in the public health system. Just the other day, 4,000 public servants in Wellington voted to strike, and teachers are also involved in a struggle over wages. So working people are fighting back against the enormous social inequality that has been produced over the past decade. The irrational wastage of money on tax cuts and handouts for the rich, and on prisons and on mass surveillance. of the population and preparations for war, which should be spent on vital social services. So we say workers have the right to know the truth. They have the right to know what is being done in their name at home and overseas. Independent journalism and oppositional voices such as WikiLeaks must be defended from persecution and from censorship.
Hear, hear.
New Zealand's political establishment, which is a close ally of America, Australia and Britain, through the Five Eyes Alliance, has done nothing to defend Assange either. That includes National, as well as the Labour government of Jacinda Ardern, which includes the Green Party. They've remained silent. This is because all of these parties are pro-business parties. They defend capitalism, they defend the alliance with America, and they oppose WikiLeaks. Along with Edward Snowden, Julian Assange has played a major role demonstrating how New Zealand's ruling elite works hand in hand with America's military and spy agencies in Afghanistan, Iraq, and many other countries.
True.
One of the major cables published by WikiLeaks in 2010 from the US Embassy, which we will shortly be going to in Wellington, said that according to US diplomats, Helen Clark's Labour government sent troops to Iraq in 2003 because the United States threatened to end a lucrative supply contract for the dairy company Fonterra, New Zealand's biggest exporter, to supply Iraq.
Extortion.
It stated that it was not until, this is a quote from that cable, it was not until Finance Minister Michael Cullen pointed out in a cabinet meeting that New Zealand's absence from Iraq might cost the New Zealand dairy conglomerate Fonterra the lucrative dairy supply contract it enjoyed under the United Nations Oil for Food program, that the Prime Minister found a face-saving compromise and sent combat engineers in a non-combat role to Basra, where they were embedded with British forces. End
Good
quote.
information, mate. Good on you.
New Zealand naval assets were always in the Persian Gulf, both during
That's right.
the Afghan War and the Iraq War.
So this revealed to everyone the mercenary and profit-driven nature of New Zealand's involvement in this brutal war, which is still continuing and which has cost more than 1 million lives. As we speak, New Zealand troops remain in Iraq and Afghanistan, and the military is being strengthened here for future conflicts. The US has entered into a trade war against China, and its military is ramping up tensions against Russia. These are all nuclear-armed powers, and the world faces the danger of a catastrophic descent into a third world war involving these powers. Assange has meanwhile been abandoned by a whole layer of liberals and fake leftists, political representatives of the upper middle class, who joined in the slander campaign against him based on ludicrous and phony allegations of sexual assault. Now Assange is being attacked just as absurdly as an agent of Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump. This is despite statements by the Trump administration that the WikiLeaks founder must be arrested, and that the WikiLeaks organization is, quote, a hostile, non-state intelligence agency. These rallies internationally demonstrate there is widespread sympathy and support for Assange in the working class. There is immense distrust of governments throughout the world,
That's for sure.
and of the corporate media that peddles war propaganda,
Absolutely.
xenophobia and nationalism.
Lies.
The working class must be mobilised to force the Australian, British, US and Ecuadorian governments to guarantee Assange's freedom and his safety. Australia is legally obliged to defend his rights as a citizen.
Yeah, true.
As James Cogan from the Socialist Equality Party said at the Sydney rally on Sunday, what must be explained to workers and young people is that the attack on Julian Assange and the attack on WikiLeaks is an attack on them. The persecution of Assange is the sharpest expression of the campaign to censor and silence all opposition to social inequality,
That's true.
repression, and the militarist policies of the imperialist states.
Yeah.
The international struggle to defend democratic rights and defeat internet censorship and defend Assange and WikiLeaks is inseparable from the struggle to unite workers internationally to prevent the danger of war. This rally is only the beginning. The Socialist Equality Group that I represent is continuing this campaign to demand Assange's freedom in solidarity with the International Committee of the Fourth International. We are holding a public meeting on Sunday, July the 1st, that I invite everyone here to come to in Lower Hutt to discuss the need for a conscious socialist anti-capitalist campaign to defend Assange and to oppose the drive to censor the internet throughout the world. Thank you very much.
Good speech. Good speech. Thank you, Tom.
Very good speech.
Thank you very much. So that was Tom Peters from the Socialist Equity Party. We've got Paul Bruce here, Green Party, former councillor.